A lot of beginner chess players opt to play the King's Indian Defense or even the Pierce Defense because of the very simple setup on the king side where you just develop your knight and your bishop in fianchetto and you castle very quickly, but you lack pawns in the center, and this is a big trouble for beginners. But what if you could play a similar variation where you actually have a pawn in the center, or at least you are going to challenge white's center and not leave it open for a white's to take? Well, this is why we're going to learn the Sicilian dragon variation. The Sicilian might look a little intimidating, and a lot of chess masters and grandmasters say to, stay away from the Sicilian because it's very theoretical. The Sicilian dragon is actually the easiest one to play. It's the simplest line and anyone can play it. Believe me, if you have ever seen any video on the King's Indian Defense or the Pierce Defense and you know that setup, you're just gonna have to add one or two more moves and you have it. So let's take a look at how it works. Your opponent's gonna play e4 and you're gonna play c5, the Sicilian Defense, right? And this move has a purpose. The purpose is, if white could play two moves in a row, they would probably play these two moves, e4 and d4, so they would have two pawns in the center. But you are going to prevent them from playing this move, d4, because you played c5 and then you can take this pawn and you're going to challenge white's center. So that's why we play this move. We're willing to exchange this pawn that is like a flank pawn for this central pawn that white's probably going to play right here. So what white's gonna do here is develop this knight, preparing this pawn advancement a little bit better. So now they can push this pawn. And if you take, they can just take back with the knight. They don't have to bring the queen out too early to take it back and run into some attacks right here. So that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna play this move to challenge the center. And now you can go ahead for your setup right here. You can develop your knight. You can then just play g6 and fianchetto the bishop right here, castle very quickly. It's the same idea you play in a King's Indian Defense or the same idea you play in the Pierce Defense, but instead of playing, for example, this move right away or even this move in the Pierce Defense and then going for your setup, you're going to play this move first. So you're going to add like one more move, and this move is going to challenge the center. That's why you're going to play it. And here, you might play this move, which is a typical move in the Pierce Defense. Just imagine this pawn is here. Just imagine this pawn is here. This is the first move people usually play in the Pierce Defense, and then they're gonna go for this setup right here, where they can castle very quickly, and then they can think about attacking the center. This is like a more hyper-modern approach, and we're not going to go for the hyper-modern approach. We're going to a more classical idea, which is the Sicilian Defense. We are threatening to destroy white center, at least challenge white center, and that's why we play c5 at the first move, and then we play d6. Now we are preparing. At the moment white plays this move, we just take it back. Okay, so white's probably going to do that. This is the open Sicilian, very easy to play, and the moment white plays this move, you have to take this pawn. That's why you played this move in the first place, to capture this pawn as soon as it is moved. So you're going to take it, and white's going to take it back with the knight. Very typical move. Now you can go for your setup, develop your knight, push the pawn, fianchetto, castle, and you have a great game. You can develop your knight right here, bring your bishop over here, maybe the rook to the open file. It's a very easy game to play. Knight f6, they are going to develop this knight to the pawn, of course, and then you go for your setup, g6, and then you fianchetto your bishop. You can play this knight here. If they ever take here, you can just take it back with your pawn, and it's not a big deal. Then maybe you can bring this rook right here to put some pressure on this pawn on the b file. But if they don't take, you can just move on with your plan and castle short very quickly. And this is the same setup you are used to if you play the King's Indian Defense or the Pierce. You have your king, castle, knight and bishop develop right here. The only difference now is that you have the c open file and these pawns in the center. White's probably going to castle queen side here, so you have opposite side castling, and this is great because you can advance these pawns. And a move that is very typical here, you can go ahead and play this idea, which is not bad. If this bishop is moved and played here on c4, you can't do that. You don't have this move But in this case here, you can go for this move. We're going to talk about that. But a move that I like a lot here is just playing a6, because we are preventing any infiltrations from these knights right here, because they are very pesky, very annoying. And by playing this move, you just eliminate that. And maybe you prepare some advancements here if you want to challenge those knights, and you're probably going to want to push these pawns and attack white's position. So I really like this move to protect this square of b5 here, preventing any knights from coming here. It's going to be very hard for them to do that. And another move that I really like here is just playing bishop to d7, and the idea here is to just place your rook on the half open file, which is going to be your main source of attack as well, because you are pointing at white's king here. This open file, or semi-open file, half open file, whatever you like, it's going to be a very, very important way for you to attack your opponent. You can, of course, bring your queen later on, not this time because it's very dangerous to run into some discovered attacks, but later on it's an idea to bring your queen to the game as well. One idea I really like here is to push the pawn to d5 here. If your opponent hasn't played the bishop right here, you can do that. And as they take, you just take back with your knight. And this is a great position. You just unleashed your bishop as you moved your knight. You unleash this very powerful bishop right here. So white's going to have some trouble defending it. If they just trade here, you can go ahead and recapture, not a big deal. And you have a very powerful centralized queen. Maybe if they don't pay attention, this queen is going to be a little pesky right here on the queen side for white. So that's why I recommend playing this opening instead of just going for a pierce right here or going for a King's Indian right away, because you can run into some ideas here. It's very annoying. So what I recommend is, instead of playing this, you just go ahead and play the Sicilian Dragon. It's a very simple way. You just have to add one more move to your repertoire. Playing this move right here is going to be better for you. And white's not going to have that very powerful center with 2 pawns, sometimes 3 pawns right here. So this is going to prevent that. And one idea here is you can, of course, play the knight here first instead of moving this pawn. Or you can play the hyper-accelerated dragon, which is the even faster way to reach that same position. And you're going to fianchetto very quickly right here. Then maybe later on, you're going to develop your other pieces and castle. But the order of moves doesn't matter very much as long as you reach the final position, which is pretty much like this. You develop your knight, you fianchetto, and then you castle. And you have this position more or less. Remember, this move is really interesting here, this one as well. So you can bring your rook. Maybe you can start pushing your pawns later on. Just be careful with this knight, okay? So they might trade it, and if they trade, you have to recapture. So be careful about that too, okay? So this is a very simple plan, very simple, easy way to play the Sicilian Defense, especially in this case, the variation, the dragon variation. So if you liked this video, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more chess videos like this one, leave a comment down below, and as always, I see you guys in the next one.